Good morning. How are you? It's Louisa Munson from the Barefoot Broadcast, coming to you on Thursday, the 12th of October. It is 6 minutes past 10, Lisbon time. That's the same as the UK. Of course, I know we've got people from other parts of the world because we're joined by one of our guests who's in the Dominican Republic, and it's something like, I don't know, I'll check with her in a minute, but I have a funny feeling it's something like 5 a.m., which is incredible. We've got people joining us in the chat room already. So we've got a big hello from Gillian Alexander up in Scotland, saying hi, Louisa, Donna Marie and Jennie. Please do, as you join us, please do say hello in the chat room because we absolutely love it. Thank you so much. I've just been delivered a biro. I can't do a single show without a biro to take notes. We've got Owen Lloyd Martin joining us in Portugal. Hello, everyone. Hi, Owen. It's lovely to have you back. So yeah, let's see where we go. So in the last time I met with Jennie and Donna, it was such an open-hearted chat, and Carl joined us a little bit later, and we were talking about suffering as a necessary part of the human condition. We all agreed it was likely to be something that would be an ongoing discussion, not something you can kind of solve in an hour. So anyway, here they are. They're back. And let's see if I can keep my composure this time. I'm going to welcome the ladies on now. Let the conversations begin. Hey.
Good morning.
Hello. How are you both? So Jennie, I know it's 10:05 where you are because you're just down the road. What time is it where you are, Donna?
Well, if it's 10:05, it's 5:05 a.m.
Good, great.
And it's Dominica, not Dominican Republic.
Sorry.
Dominica. Yeah, much smaller island. It's just 5 a.m. here. So yeah, not long up, obviously.
No, you're very awake.
Yeah,
I'd be like this.
Well, that's on the outside.
Yeah.
Well, the last time we all got together, I had this really kind of beautiful feeling of sisterhood, actually. I had this real sort of, that kind of yin feeling, where we really drop into the feminine. And I don't know, I don't often feel like that because I'm quite masculine in many respects, but I felt really that sense of sisterhood and that sense of sharing. And I really, really love that. And I wanted to just start by saying that. So where would you guys like to, what's occurred for you over the last couple of weeks? What happened? I got loads of emails from people saying, oh my God, that really touched me. And, what's happened and changed and moved since we last met?
For me, I'd say in the last 5 days, I've been away. I've been and stayed at a friend's house while she's been in Germany. And I've had quite an amazing experience looking through all of my old diaries. So we're going back. I've been writing stuff down for years and years and years and years and years. And all of my suffering comes out in there. But yeah, what is beautiful, which really came to light over the last few days, was how full of love and light these books are. So although I'm going there with this, whatever it is, and whether I've done lots of masterclasses, so all my notes go in there, everything goes in there, but it's not dark, Louisa. It's light. It's full of light, and it's full of love, and it's full of how do we feel better? How do we do this better? And I was like almost just going through book after quote after this, and it's all about feelings. It's all about love. So I have, without a doubt, aligned with my true purpose this last 5 days, and it's all in my books. All the suffering, all the pain. It's all about love, and it's all about connection and feeling, and that's all there is in my book. It's been screaming out at me for the last 15 years, but yeah, I've still been writing all this suffering down. Like, I think we're all trying to get to our purpose, aren't we? Are we not all on this road trying to get to where we're here, what we're here for?
Yeah.
And what's come up for me and what I really want to inspire others with is go back and have a look at what you've been doing and writing and feeling and over the last 10 years. Because I reckon your theme of what you're supposed to be doing here is likely in that book, in those books. And that's what I've discovered over the last 5 days. And it's beautiful because you could be looking at all this suffering, I guess, through books and get quite depressed at all the darkness and there's none of that. It's a complete, even on myself, trying to uplift me. And I think that's because I'm always coming from a place of trying to help others.
Yeah.
We talked about that, didn't we? I think, it's almost like a reflection away from me for others. But actually it does come to me as well in the journey, but I'm putting it out there for others. So these books are full of love and light for others that are feeling this same pain and suffering that I've been through. So for me, that was lovely. And then to look at the title today, is Suffering Part of the Human Condition? I think, absolutely, I think it's about learning and healing through and finding our path and understanding what the gifts are in those lessons, in that pain.
Yeah.
There's gifts everywhere, right? And I think there's probably gifts of self in your diaries that, you've moved on from, and then you check again 5 years later and it's there again. And then you check again, it's there again. It's like, hang on a minute, there's alarm bells here. That's you. What are you going to do with it?
I really love the way you've kind of started here today, because like there's this great big, like, I guess, a narrative of the story, like the eternal story, the hero's journey, the stories that we create for ourselves. I every now and again I go and like look around because Carl runs around after me pretty much, picking up every bit of paper that I've written notes on and putting them into a box. And so I'm not really a diary person, but I've got a gazillion notebooks that I buy, and then I write on a few pages. Then a kid comes, draws a picture, and scribbles out some of my notes. So I've just got piles and piles of random books that have no theme. And so every now and again, and actually earlier this week, I was picking up some old stuff, and I realised that an idea I was having 2 years ago has just come around full circle, and it's the time to launch it now, the time to go. So yeah, I've been doing a bit of that myself. I just want to hear from Jennie to see if there's a similarity going on. But then I'd like to put a bit of context on, like, why suffering has come up a lot, because not everyone that's watching today will have watched the first episode. And so it'd be good to sort of find a bit more about your context. But Jennie, what about you? Like, what's been going on?
Well, there is most definitely a link with what I've been doing this week, for sure. So I'm a bit like you. I'm a scrawler. I scrawl on bits of paper and then I file them into the back of a book, and there's no real kind of structure to it. Although I have written diaries on and off, and I still got them packed away. I've never thrown them away, but everything's in storage now. But this week I've actually been working on a darkness to light journal. So I'm creating a journal for people to use. So basically the structure is that first of all, it'll be an explanation of kind of like what happens during a dark night of the soul and why it happens, and then ways in which you can help process that. But it'll also have some really interesting things in there, like moon phase stuff, like crystals that you can help, herbs that can help, that kind of thing. So I've been putting that together this week, and I've had a real kind of a lot of downloads about it. It's almost been like, yeah, this is definitely what you have to do. This is what people are looking for. And I think it kind of ties into the period that we're in now. So it wasn't this week. Yeah, it wasn't this week, but it was a couple of weeks ago. I found some scrawly notebooks that I'd done from 2020. And like you say, the stuff that was there in 2020 is actually still kind of here now, but it seems like that's all kind of being enacted now. The last 3 years have been preparation, and now people are really getting to grips with stuff. That's how I feel. So there seems to be quite a big shift in people wanting to journal, but also needing guidance through a process. And there's lots of different journal ways in which you can do things, but shadow work journaling prompts, self-care planners, mood trackers, moon phases, all those kind of things, I think really help to bring your kind of suffering into focus, so that you know what really is the root cause of it. Because what happened might not actually be, like, the current situation that you're in might not be the pain, that, like, the source of your suffering. You're suffering because of something, but the true cause of that suffering happened a long time ago or in the past that you didn't deal with then. So it's like a compound effect, I think. Like, if you don't deal with the suffering, if you can't find any ways out of it, it will be a perpetual loop of suffering until you have that dissolution of self, and then that kind of regeneration again. That's what I've been working on this week. It very much ties into what Donna was saying, and it's very much focusing on, like, what positive things can we do to really help ourselves at different times. And, you know, some people find solace in meditation, some people find a lot of solace in doing, you know, cold water immersion therapy, some people find it from Reiki, some people find it from something else. But essentially it is accepting and surrendering to that dissolution of self that you once believed that you were, like the perception that you had of yourself, through the breakdown stage, through the surrendering kind of stage, and then through the mirror stage, the confrontation of yourself, and then finally the kind of the reintegration. And at different stages there are different things that I think that people need to do. So in the initial crisis phase, for example, that is a phase where you're in a lot of fight flight or freeze or fawn. You're in that kind of stress response. So the things that you're doing in that phase would look quite different to what you're doing kind of in the reintegration phase at the end, which is kind of like you're building yourself up again now. So I think that that's what I'm working on anyway, and I hope to get that kind of up and running in the next couple of weeks. But it keeps growing, so the journal's going to be about 500 pages long. But I'll get there eventually.
I love what you're describing there, because, and the darkness to light, and the dissolution of self, because we're really seeing that with the moon. I mean, obviously the moon just goes round and round, or, you know, like appears to have a cycle. And it's going into the new moon phase on Saturday. And some people call it the dark moon, and it appears to disappear. And of course, this one is an eclipse. It's an annular solar eclipse. And so there's going to be what's known as the ring of fire. So it goes really, really dark in the place of totality. And it's like the dissolution of self. It is, you know, like the structure appears to disappear. And from there comes this brand new creation. And like earlier this week, we were talking about seed points and the point of creation, you know, like the first point you might have experienced something and how it plays back. And I noticed that in my manifestations in the past and stuff, where I focused my energy around these dark moons or these new moons or these eclipses, I tend to progress on a cyclical basis, on a cyclical, oh, flipping heck, what word is that?
Cyclical.
Thank you. Cyclical basis. You know, so like the next dark moon, the dark moon after that, or the new moon after that, and it's like things progress. It's like taking a step. And when you were talking about the crisis point, Jen, you know, that was really like the full moon. And of course, in 2 weeks' time, we've also got the full moon eclipse, where all of the stuff that's hidden, it grows, and it's ready to shed. And of course, that fits in very well with our menstrual cycle, doesn't it? And I love the fact that you were talking about the cold waters. I mean, Donna, you've been through a bit of a dissolution of self, haven't you, in this, you know, to do with water, if you don't mind me. Because you put it on Facebook, so I'm guessing.
Yeah, that was
pretty big, where, you know, it was like things were being washed away. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Are you happy to talk about it?
It was like a real shift, and it just came out of the blue. It came out of a broken water pipe. The pipes here are massive. Like, you imagine the big, massive water pipes here, up in the hills. And we're staying I was staying on my own, actually, at a friend's house. My husband and my son were further down the village. And I'd just done some Wim Hof breathing, which I thought is really bizarre because I hadn't done it for a year. And it was actually a year the day before that I did the Wim Hof breathing. And it was really strange because I was on the phone to my friend and chatting to her, saying I'm procrastinating from doing Wim Hof. It was really strange, but I did it for 20 minutes. I sat on the floor and did it for 20 minutes, which I hadn't done for a year. And I didn't even know it was exactly a year. And then out of the blue, this thunder noise came. I looked out of the beautiful sky. It was bright blue. It wasn't raining. And so just in that split second, I didn't have time to think. Water was coming down everywhere. A pipe had burst. I didn't know this at the time, but a pipe had burst in the mountain, had come down. We're on a big steep top of a big steep hill. So it was like a river coming down the hill, behind the house, round the house, all around me. I was trapped. There was nothing I could do. The cats went up on the roof. I got up on the table, went up. I knew I was okay. The first thing that worried me was the fact that all this water was going down into the village and it was going to kill everybody down there. It was going to get the buses off the roads. It was going to get the cars off the roads. I was on the phone to my husband saying, just get out of the house, get my son out of the house, thinking that they were all the ones that were in danger, not realizing that actually it was only me that was in danger, because the water at the bottom of the hill goes off into the river. So the only house that was actually impacted by this level of water was the house that I was in. So I was there on the phone trying to protect everybody else from this water. And in fact, it was my husband that I'd told him to go and save himself. 5 minutes later, he's turning up outside in this water, like up to his legs in water, coming to save me, and manages to get me out of the house, manages to hold me down, like walk down in safety. And it was
really goosebumps.
I can't describe it. I mean, when I looked out and I saw that the water, you know, rightly so, goes into the river. This island is designed that way. But there's been a whole shift on so many levels energetically since then as well. In our relationship, just shifts. There was a shift, and I think it's very. I don't know too much about these things, but the fact that it was water, so much water. I mean, it was unbelievable what happened. I couldn't quite get my head around it for a good few days. But the shift is still there. That shifted something. So much water.
Isn't it incredible when you link it to something like an event like that you can kind of like almost rationalize a little bit with your kind of emotions and understand that was representative of a big clearing of energy for you, and it was obviously a massive release. And also you were saying that you were wanting to make sure that everybody was okay, probably because that's your role. It's what you always do. You always make sure everybody's okay. And then your husband showed you that actually, no, I am here, definitely here. I'm here for you to reach and get you, and I'll catch you, you know?
Yeah.
It's really, I've got total goosebumps I'm covered in goosebumps.
Well, someone who I work with that's also very, very spiritual and maybe a sort of psychic medium, she was saying she feels that this has happened before. This in a previous life, it's happened before, where it perhaps didn't have that outcome. You know, maybe something happened. Yeah. But that was the significance of this. Like that needed to happen. And I think the Wim Hof, when I was like, it was about a year ago, I checked my messenger when my friend sent me this Wim Hof app. It was the day before, a year ago, the day before. And I needed to do it. And the thing is, I got confused with the exercises. Wim Hof gets you to press a button to stop and break and do some breathing. Well, I didn't realize I was breaking, and I did it for 20 minutes. So I'd been doing this like breathing. How much of that prepared me for what was about to come?
The timing. You must have got yourself in a really like parasympathetic state. You weren't in a stress fright flight, were you? You obviously, I'm sure you felt stressed, but you'd got yourself into a level to be able to deal with that without freaking out.
And I think that's the power of our higher self. And just linking back to what I was saying with all my diaries, they weren't diaries, by the way, they're notebooks with bits written, and sometimes they're empty. Believe me, they're not the same.
Thank goodness.
It's the high. I think it is. It's the higher self knows what's going on, always knows, is there, and it's about our intuition and how in tuned we are. I was in tune to this a year ago. I think I was in tune to this whole scenario. You know, is there time? Does it exist? All that, rightly not. You know, it doesn't. So it was. my higher self was preparing me for this shift that was going to happen. And thank God, because I could have been chatting away for another 20 minutes in this state on my phone, and it would have been like, oh, what the hell? But it wasn't like that. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember really what it was like because it was so crazy. But I handled it in a way that worked. And thank God.
You were in the right state.
I was in completely the right state. I've never done that. I haven't done that much breathing like that in a year. And I'm not sure I'll do it again for another year, but you know, for some reason. And the thing is, I do clear a lot of my apps that I don't use, but I've kept that one there, even though I've never used it. And I just think, wow.
What also interests me is the sort of like timing of that, you know, and me talking about the eclipses that we're about to go through. Obviously, the sun has a cycle. Everything has a cycle, and a sun cycle. Obviously, each birthday. As the sun comes back around to where it was at the time, place, and date of your birth, it births a whole new like year ahead for you. And of course, there was a sun cycle between the start of you doing the Wim Hof and like the next, you know, like I guess what I'm saying is like your story is evolving in cycles. You know, it was interesting that you mentioned that, and it's like, oh yeah, there's another cycle. You know, we're all in these cycles. You know, and like when we're born, like the waters break, don't they? The water breaks, and then out we come.
Wow, that's so true. I know that, but I'd never really thought of it like that before.
It's funny because like it didn't happen in this last house that we moved to, but I've had this history of when I've moved to a new house, there's some kind of water disaster. Of some sort, not as dramatic as yours, but I've had, you know, floods that have gone through the ceiling and down the stairs. I've had all sorts of different things, or drains coming up as I move in. And in the past, and I sometimes forget to do this, you know, because, you know, we've got kids to distract us and stuff and pets as well now. But I used to sort of like almost pray to the house and try to clear whatever was there. It was almost like I couldn't be in that house until something had come into like a resonant energy. It's like, I don't know if it's my energy going into a house that disturbed it or whatever, but there's always a shift, and we don't always understand what's going on. But you know, the water is all about the emotions and the psyche, and I love the fact that you're talking about the higher self as well. What I'd like to really like also draw attention to is the idea that you wanted to save everyone else. Like in that moment, you had that clarity, save everyone.
Yeah.
And the desire to save yourself, just you'd almost surrendered that it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, it was that. I was at the top. Well, I'm okay. And I think the last words I said to Eric was, I'll get on the roof of the house, I'll be okay, because I was at the top of the hill. So, you know, I think but then as I put the phone down before Eric arrived, I kind of realized that this might be not the case, because this water is not stopping. And I don't even know how I'm going to get onto the top of the house. So at the point that Eric came, I was stood on the coffee table just assessing what the fuck what I'm going to do. Right. And it was at that point that Eric came, at that point. So it really was it was like a relief knowing that I'd made the call, and that at least my husband and my son were going to try and get into safety. And I think I said to him, get on the roof of the house, because I could see this water coming out. In my head, this was coming down to the whole of the rest of the island, and was going to, you know, if I'd have had really thought about it, I would have realised that it's going to go in the river at the bottom of the hill. But I'm quite pleased now that I didn't realise that at the time, because I think the whole act of my husband coming to get me was a big part of all of what was going on, you know. Whereas I could have said, oh no, it's fine, it's going to go in the river, just wait 5 minutes, it'll be all right. You know, what a different perspective that would have brought on the whole thing. You know, Eric would have been like, oh, you know, I wouldn't have realised the seriousness of it, wouldn't have come and saved me. I actually was in danger, you know. And yeah, it's just bizarre. It was absolutely meant to happen, without a doubt. It was meant to happen. And thank God my lovely dear friend Polly's house was okay. It just needed a bit of a clean and a jet wash, and the garden needed sorting out. There was no damage. There was no injuries. It was okay.
Wow.
But there was a lot more deeper emotional stuff in that whole episode that came from how I reacted, how I didn't panic. I just saw it for what I saw it as and dealt with it that way. And that's and yeah. And the shift's still there now, and it's beautiful, really. I can almost say I'm glad it happened, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like your selflessness saved you, because
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I just want as well. It occurs to me that every time we give birth, we don't know we're going to survive it, do we? We don't know that. I've always, each of the 3 times I've given birth, I've written a letter to my children in case I don't survive it, because you don't know, do you? It's such a huge shift. Yeah. So like linking up like menstrual cycles, pregnancy, water, and
it's quite difficult. Is when you mention that, it's only been in the last 2 years that I've really considered the fact that I was born. That's an adoptee's kind of thing. I feel I've never really considered being born, because when you're adopted into a new family, it's almost like voided. It's almost like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I suppose people don't talk about it, do they? Because like I've talked about their labours to my kids, so I can understand why that doesn't seem to exist.
It doesn't resonate. It doesn't, like, you were in somebody's body. It's almost like that. You can't. That's not part of the narrative. You're not.
Yeah.
And I can understand in a way why that's a good thing in a way growing up, because of the emotional stuff that I'm going through now. But that realization that I was born came when I was 50. It's like, even though I've had my own child, I still wasn't putting myself in that. I mean, and I think in a way that's because I was in what's known as the adoption fog, so which protected me as a mother for my son, actually. I think because there's a lot of adoptees that are not that are aware of everything, so it's a really emotional process, and a lot of that emotion gets put onto their new child, like but I didn't have any of that. But I still, just till recently, hadn't really considered, and this is a new one. Like, of course, my birth mother's waters broke and I came out, and it's like, it just brings me closer to my birth mother. And as I said to you, her birthday would have been on Saturday, the 14th of October. And that's another thing I didn't know. I didn't even really know. I didn't know my birth mother's birthday until recently, So I think this eclipse is going to be very, very special for me. Even from what you've just said this week about waters breaking. I know waters break, mine broke, but I've not ever considered that my own birth mother's waters broke and I came through. So it's quite wonderful to have that in my mind, in myself right now, prior to Saturday, when it's my birth mother's birthday as well. Because I think we the two of us are together. We always have been, but we've always been so far apart. And I think emotionally we're coming together now. So
yeah. Wow. We've got a couple of comments from Carl. He's saying he's sticking to the title. The human condition is suffering, and suffering is to me is a symptom. True human intelligence would be the ceaseless transcendence of it. Whew.
Wow.
I don't know. How does that fit in? What are you thinking, Jennie, at the moment?
Just wondering what the significance of fire is, because I've had, like, looking back in the since 2017. So in 2017, I made a massive change of self. I ended a 21-year relationship, who was the father of my children, and it was a very difficult situation. So I left in the February, and in the October, our house that he was still living in, I'd moved out, was surrounded by fire. And then there's been lots of fires. Luis had a fire near his where he used to do his surfboards quite recently, and we've had 2 fires locally, which was going to be where I nearly bought in the exact location where 2 fires were started recently, the same place. And then there was also, on the same day, there was another fire which was right next to another house that I was interested in, that I nearly bought.
Gosh.
And so just wondering maybe it's burning the connection to that thing, I don't know. But there's been some quite significant moments where we've thought this fire is getting really close now and it could be really dangerous. And just wondering if fire also links in, like maybe all the elements that link in at different times. So maybe some people might suffer something to do with wind or water or fire. But recently, my new house, we had a flood quite recently, which was about, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, something like that we had a really heavy rain and it all came in the roof.
Yes, that's right.
But it was cleared up pretty quickly. It wasn't much of a problem. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when you start to think about things, blockages or emotions or anything like that is linked to something that happens, like everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? Like there's lots of things, and I think once you have that perspective on things and you can look at it quite pragmatically like that, then you can really kind of understand your own emotions a lot better. So you think, well, why did this happen? Or what's it teaching me? Or what's it releasing? It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And the moon cycles as well, like you say, and the solar cycles, all of the cycles.
Yeah, it is reaching in and thinking and feeling into it. And it's only when you've been given that perspective or that to do that with, that you can do that, right? And then that opens up and becomes part of your reality, and I think when you start opening up and believing in that, like what more am I going to get out of knowing now, or just feeling into the connection with my birth mother and her waters breaking and on Saturday, then and it's just a key to a little something like that in our lives that enable us to open it up and then bring that in to make us more, I guess, as I say, make us more whole. We are whole, but we're becoming whole in ourselves. And I think they're just, but they're giving us the choice, gives us the choice. I love that. I think fire and water and all these elements is clearing, burning away, washing away, blowing away, whatever it is. But if we believe that is burning our soul and not going to do us very good, then that's going to take us down that road of feeling that, thinking that, and probably that's what will become our reality. Whereas if we can choose to use that and think, actually, this is really positive, this is really good, this means this, then that is what this will be for us, and I think I love that. I love if everyone could just sort of be open to take what they want to take for themselves and what feels good, and then grow with that. What I love what you've said, because it's absolutely true. My mother's waters did break, and I have been through a lot of I could even bring in my birth mother being there with me on that day, and really bring her closer to me in that whole shift. Because she actually died in water, my birth mother.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Wow. God, that's it. I've got goosebumps again.
I was just about to say, babies are usually delivered. And it's interesting that your beloved husband came to deliver you out of that water.
Yeah. And he really did. He came and got me. He came
but and to hear that your mum passed away in water is kind of
Yeah. And the lady that did say she feels she knows a lot of my story and all of this. We don't know the exact answer, but it was, there was definitely something going on there.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think people probably do have a tendency to attract a particular element. So I've got a bit of a water thing going on, but I do also recognize that I've got a bit of an electrical thing going on as well. So for instance, there was an old man that I befriended who had no family, He was a Croatian man living in the UK, and he was very, very poorly, and he had no one visiting him. And, I became his friend. He was my neighbor. And I found him really charming. He was wonderful. He was dying of cancer. And I spent a lot of time with him, and he stuck around for quite a long time. But I was visiting him the night before he passed away. And the Macmillan nurses used to let me stay as long as I wanted, and he would call for me, and sometimes they would give me a message to say he's ready and whatnot. And so I was with him for hours, and in the end they said, look, he is ready to pass, but this is one journey he's going to have to do on his own. So they kind of sent me home, and went to bed. And all of, and weirdly enough, whilst I was dreaming, I came on. So like there's a menstrual cycle being pulled into this, and I had such a strong pain, and I put my bedside light on, and all of a sudden the bulb just went and I heard in my head really strong, out like a light. 5 minutes later, I get a call from the Macmillan nurses to say he'd passed. And then Digby, our oldest, the day before he was born, Carl's dad was very poorly. He'd been poorly for about 9 months or so. And Carl had been called to go and say goodbye to his dad. And my midwife had said, oh, it's your first child. He's not going to arrive on his due date. No way. Not a chance. Your husband should go and, see his dad. So Carl was, a good couple of counties away from me. He was in London. I was in Devon. And my waters broke. And I called him back. And his dad hadn't passed. And so Carl came back, and a couple of hours later, I gave birth to Digby, and it was really easy and straightforward, and I was very, very lucky. And we asked for an immediate discharge, so we were out within, say, 6 hours, because we just wanted to be home and safe, and also we didn't know what was going to go on with Carl's dad. We get home, and we're back just a couple of hours, and Carl's called out again to say goodbye to his dad. His dad is really going to go now. And so Carl drove to see his dad, and a few hours later, I went to boil a kettle, make myself a cup of tea. It's like you got your firstborn, you have no time for anything. I made myself a cup of tea, and all of a sudden, there was like this bang, and everything went out, all the electrics, and I was like, "Oh, he's gone," and yeah, he did. So it's like maybe we have our own language that works with the elements or with energies. Is it coming from us? Is it connect? I mean, I don't have any of the answers to that, but we can observe the things that happen at these sort of life and death moments, because that's what we're talking about here, isn't it? Birth and death.
Yeah. I think we've got so much more power than we realise. It's just like this tapping in, and yeah, I think when we're ready, we'll be using more of these powers and the knowledge behind it. And it's conversations like this, isn't it, that grow this power. I think.
Yeah, I'm going to have to change the title, aren't I, of this show? Jennie, you've been around a lot of. Have you been around a lot of people dying, Jennie, in your job? We can't hear you. Can't hear you.
I turned my mic off because the builders were drilling. Yes, I have lots of people. Lots.
What have you observed? Have you noticed any of this kind of stuff?
Well, like something happening, like electrics going off or things like that.
Or I don't know, like psychic phenomenon or elemental phenomenon or patterns.
I think probably more so with my own friends and family. Yeah. Like I haven't noticed it so much with like clients and patients so much. Maybe their own family gets the signs. But yeah, every death is different. No death is the same. I think what I have noted in a lot of deaths is that there is sometimes a moment of clarity before the person dies. They have a moment where they're able to connect, and then there's a moment that they leave. And also, I think what I've seen to be very powerful is when very close relatives say to the person that's dying, like, it's okay, you can go now. Like, and that usually, what usually happens to that is that the person does go, and quite peacefully. You know, I've seen some very traumatic deaths. I've seen some very, very peaceful ones. I've seen ones where people were completely unconscious, ones where people were awake one minute and not the next. So psychic phenomena, I don't know. I do feel like there is a presence around after the person has lost their physical signs. I do think that is a thing, that there is some ethereal kind of presence still, and I think it can remain for a period of time. There isn't like a length of time that it might stay or not. But yeah, every death process is different. I think maybe the people that are able to have a peaceful death are the ones that have gone through this dissolution of self. They've reintegrated, they've gone through all the work, and there isn't anything for them still to fight or to heal anymore. The ones that have a traumatic death, maybe, I don't know, maybe there is some link to how we die and how we're born. Like, you know, lots of people have traumatic births.
Yeah.
If there is this like soul reincarnation, which I do believe that there is, then maybe a traumatic birth was followed by a traumatic death. Do you know what I mean? Or there is some link somewhere. I had something strange happen to me this week. So you know, I've had lots of problems with my build, right? Donna doesn't know this, but earlier on in the year, I got ripped off by a builder with a lot of money, and then he died. He was 42 years old, and then he died. I was just about to take him to court, and then he died. And I was listening to an astrological reading or something, and it said to me that my spirit team would arrive in June, and that things would be okay, and that things would get going. So I've got here a whole bunch of Ukrainian guys. And there's one who's 18, and his name is Sasha, which is the same name as my youngest child. And he's the only one that speaks any English, and he does all the translation. And he's got the most beautiful dark curly hair and lovely eyes, lovely beautiful eyes, and he's real sweetie. And a couple of days ago, I had this like overwhelming feeling that we were somehow connected. So I asked him yesterday his date of birth, and his date of birth was the exact same date that my first pregnancy was due when I had a miscarriage. So his birthday was the exact date. It was like I was like when he told me, because I thought I'm going to ask him his birthday. It won't be the 25th of September. And I said, when's your birthday? And he was like, 25th of September, same year. And I was like, what? That is so weird. And I don't know, I can't say anything to him.
Oh my
God. Think I'm a complete loon.
I mean, he could be your son, couldn't he? I mean,
obviously. Well, yeah. I mean, he could be. Yeah, exactly. He could be exactly the same age, and he could looks wise. He's got the same kind of curly dark hair as me, longish dark hair, same colorish eyes. You know, it just is. It's weird. It was just like and I've had that a few times happen to me, like with my neighbor as well. I feel like somehow we've had some connection before, and it's almost like a mother-daughter kind of dynamic, but you know, but I hardly know. I've only known her a year, but it feels like I've known her many times. And I do feel a lot like that with people. So anyway, that's diverged off a bit about the suffering. Anyway, Sasha's outside now. I can see he's just come outside.
I just love that he's come along. Obviously, you've had a nightmare with builders, but the positive in all that, and that this soul is a part of the good in making it good for you.
He's building my house. He's only 18, and he's here obviously because of what's happening in the Ukraine. He's come here, and they're building my forever house, hopefully. Yeah,
beautiful.
He's laying the bricks in my forever house.
Wow.
But I think what I'm saying is those signs, if we recognize those signs, they really help us heal and deal with things in our past. Because like I just felt peace with that yesterday. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, oh, that's like, to actually think that energy could still be in my life is really beautiful. It's like a really nice thing to think, rather than focusing on the loss. Not that I focus on the loss too much. I've kind of mainly dealt with it, I think, and it's not something that comes in my mind very often. But those periods, I think they almost like close the book a bit, and they can help you kind of move on from that and close that energy, I think. So I think there's signs and symbolism and signs and synchronicities everywhere, and at certain times they're more intense when we need them, I think. But people are so blocked is that they're not able to see them, or they're not able to interpret them, or they interpret them wrong. And then we go into the whole realms of what really is schizophrenia and mental illness and all of that kind of thing, but that's a different talk altogether.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm really feeling like that sense of connection. Like the fact that it feels like you almost can't put a step wrong, because if you're open to seeing connection, the connection will almost prove that there is something bigger to this whole life. There's some kind of reason or something or other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, just for me, because I mean, there's a guy here that he met us from the airport when we arrived here, in the bus, picked us up as a family, and then 3 months later, after we'd been on for 3 months, we ended up moving to an area, and he's our neighbour, and we'll never forget when he came. But he's also a local bus driver that goes into town and back, so he's our neighbour. But I'll never forget that when I saw him, it was a moment that was like, oh my gosh, it's you, because he had his mask off. When we arrived, everyone had masks on, but he had this huge smile. And I said to Eric, I just feel like he's part of the plan.
Your spirit team. Yeah.
He's a part of it. And then lo and behold, at the point where we have to move out of here in a few weeks, because my friend's back from the UK, and I've really felt since the water scenario that it's okay. Everything's going to work out fine. Lo and behold, it's him that's given us a contact for the next place to live. And it's not confirmed. We're going to go and see it today. But I feel like this is part of the journey. He is there. He's part of this. And it's a good sign. It's there's a lot of wolves dressed up in clothing here, put it that way. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot going on behind the surface within a lot of people. And I feel really blessed to sort of have this deeper knowing that, because it's the intuition you need here, because you will get burnt big time by the people, the trauma, the jealousy, there's a lot of that going on, and trust is difficult. So I really feel that this guy is good and is there as part of our journey. And I'm sort of becoming aware of these souls, these spirits that are in our lives. And I'm thinking for you, Jennie, like this soul was going to be in your life, whether you were going to give birth to him or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. He was there.
Well, I just had another realization then, actually, we're just talking about it. When I had my miscarriage, I was renovating a house, and I was doing lots of painting, lots of I actually think it was because I lifted a really heavy carpet. And every time I come back from the shops with things like paint and toilets and stuff like that, he's always the first one out to help me. He's always, isn't that amazing?
So it could be there's these souls that have got these roles that we've brought them in, designed to help us with these roles. Maybe this one I'm talking about is about the living location, ensuring that there's somebody there to sort of ensure we get, help us in that, help you get your house. I don't know. It's just, yeah. But I think to bring it back to suffering, once you're aware and opened up to all of this perspective, then this can really help your suffering. Like I could be on the floor like, oh my God, I'm not going to move. We've got nowhere to live. Oh my gosh. And have that belief. Or I could be more like, no, it's okay. It's going to be all right. There's more going on here that we can't see and feel. Just go with it. It's going to be all right. And I just think if we could encourage more people to sort of feel that rather than the fear all the time. And that's what I get from my books, is there's no fear even amongst the suffering. There's it's the work that I'm doing around fear, but what's coming out is how we feel. If we can try and feel good, be aware of our feelings with all of this, at least, then that's good. Because when we're not, we're in fear and we're afraid, and that's what our reality will be.
Yeah.
And so I think in some ways this does kind of wrap up.
Yeah. What else is occurring to me as I'm like sort of tuning in is we've all moved, haven't we? We've all left our country of origin, and we've all found ourselves somewhere else. And I wonder, one of the things that's occurred to me, I used to just I don't know, almost get an invitation or a sense that I was meant to be somewhere, and then I would just that was where I'd head. Like for instance, this is a bit weird actually. I've not really thought about it too much, but as a child, you know, when people say, "Oh, what are you going to do when you're older?" My standard response was, "I'm going to go and live in France and everything's going to be okay," which must have really hurt my mum and dad when I said that, because, you know, there's the implication that everything wasn't okay. But bless them, they didn't say anything about it. So I had a place at university. I'd finished my A levels, and I'd made no plans at all to go to France. And then I had a dream, and in the dream, I saw my dead granddad, and he said this poem. He said to me, "Wherever you go, whatever you do, we'll be there. We'll look after you. Things will be okay." And I woke up the next morning and just knew I had to go to France, and I had no money. I said to my mum and dad, "I'm leaving. I'm going to France." And they were like, "What with? Have you got any money?" I was like, "No." And they said, "Well, we're not letting you out of this house unless you've got some money." So, I you know, went on a walk, and I chatted to my nan, and my nan, God bless her, said, "Here, have some money." And it wasn't a great sum. It was like maybe £120, but that was like 30 years ago. 30 years ago. And so I went home, and my nan said, "Don't tell your mum I gave you this." But my mum must have known. And so the next day, my dad dropped me off at Dover, and I had a tiny little backpack, and I just buggered off. And I got to Calais and thought, "Oh my God, what the hell am I doing here?" What? And then I heard this poem come in, like, "Wherever you go, whatever you do, yeah, we'll look after you. It's okay." And I just felt guided to get my pendulum, like my necklace, and I held it over a map of France, and, you know, it went to La Rochelle. I was like, "Okay, that's where I'll head then." And
Oh wow.
my whole journey went like that as an 18-year-old. And I was really lucky, really. Everything just kind of like fell into place. And then since I've met Carl, you know, we've been moved, you know, we've had house shares and all these different things come up. And it's like all of a sudden we get free accommodation, or we're encouraged to live in a particular place. And we think, yeah, okay then. And I wonder if sometimes as beings we are moved because our energy is meant to be there for a bit, because like the moment you're not meant to be there, you get spat out like quicker than you can say, "What? But I was very settled." You know, all of a sudden spat out and moved away. And I just wondered about sort of, you know, how that works exactly. My experience is, it's almost like a calling that we're supposed to live. Calling. I'm wondering, you're talking about Dominica and that there's loads of trauma and old stuff there, and then this very bright soul and her family moves there. Like, what drove you? What brought you to Dominica?
Well, that's interesting, because looking through all my notes, lots of books and things, the last entry for a few months was the 28th of February 2020,
Yeah.
which was, as we know, in the UK, 3 weeks before the whole shutdown.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting, because in my books there's goals and plans, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and and then 4 months later there's a break of, obviously it was all, I think it was about June time. I'm back in with my goals and my plans and this, but it's more online now. It's obviously online, and it's like it's all just changed. I'm just like, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. It just, as the 2020 unfolded and started to sort of wake up to be honest with you, Jennie, what you're working on, I think me and you should talk a bit more, really. There's a lot of things going on with what you've said, and what my plans are with what I'm doing in the last week. But darkness to light, like I saw the darkness in that year. I saw what I wasn't, and I'm not religious, but I wasn't really believing in anything until that sort of time. And I started to realize and believe in the dark. You know, this evil is real. It's there, and I didn't see it before. And I think that's what, then I started to look above. And I'm still not religious in any way, but I look at the Creator, I look at Source, I look at God, and I'm really thankful for that light. Now I'm aware of the dark. You know, I don't have to get all religious and go to church for that. That's something I feel inside, and that's where that's come for me. It's like this is real, because this is real. So it's and I think from then on the journey came with my husband that, you know what, we're stuck in a house, 4 walls, there's nothing really going on here, we work from home. What are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we here? Because we've always had this opportunity to come here, but we've never ever saw it as that before. We saw it as something that we would come to retire. And thank God we did come when we did, you know, because chances are we wouldn't have what we have now to retire in 30 years or whenever it is. And we wouldn't have the energy to do what we're doing now in 30 years. So I can't really give an answer to that, other than it just was, with everything that was going on, all the energies that were going on around us, it was a way out. It was like we were looking to move, to change, to get out of this, because I was feeling quite trapped where we were. So yeah, but it wasn't really planned. It was just one of them, you know, we need to go.
All of a sudden there was knowing it was time.
Yeah, it was a knowing, and it's right. The connections that I've got here in Dominica, I think a lot of people that are here, the expats that are here, they're here for a reason. They're here for a purpose, and we've all connected with each other, and it's like we've known each other for years, but we haven't. But I think there's something in that as well, where it's sort of almost signaling to you that, yeah, you are in the right place. You're in the right place.
I think people have been manoeuvred during 2020 and onwards into different locations. That's how I feel. Like, that's what I like. It's just an intuitive feeling. And it's actually my 12-year anniversary today of moving to Portugal.
Oh,
and
happy anniversary.
Yeah, and definitely the house I moved from, like, that was meant to be my kind of forever house. I'd built and I didn't build it, I renovated it thinking it was going to be my forever house. I had a huge shift in self while I was there, it started really in 2017, but during 2020 was where I had to confront my own self. And I did have what I'd call a bit of a meltdown of my own personal identity, and have gone through those stages that I was kind of talking about earlier. And like you were saying right at the beginning, Donna, is that when you've gone through it, or you can still be going through it, I'm still going through it now, there's still things that are happening to me now where I have to really consider why that's happening, or, you know, my emotions surrounding it, or what does it link to. That's still kind of processing, just not quite as aggressively as it was. And I think that once you've gone through or going through that process and you understand it, then you can help other people. And there is a lot of people, I feel, suffering right now that can't see a way out of where they want to be. The world is confusing. Everything is, you know, now we've got another war happening, and lots of imagery coming on the news, and horrible stories that may or may not be verified, and all of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's going to be another kind of wave of people going through this period. I almost think it's kind of like it's written in the stars, or whatever you want to say. It's a master plan.
You're right. And I think the work you're doing, and the seed that I've grown the last 5 days, is like the journaling. For me, what my books have shown me, what I'm here for, I'm here to help people feel. Like, actually,
Yes.
Because we've had a lot of people out there that have had the deepest of suffering, have blocked, they've hidden that away, they've blocked that away. And that's what my books are. It's like I hid it away, but I'm there trying to kind of coach it and find it and learn about it. And this is what it is for others. So the suffering is there, but how do we even get anywhere near that unless we've got guides and teachers to help us how to feel properly? Like, because we're so scared of those feelings. Some of them come from something that we've just blocked away, and we might be 2 years old when that happened. And then we're taught, it's very easy on this planet, isn't it, to forget about our feelings. I mean, we've got so much to distract us in our mind. So I think that's the work. What we're doing, what you're doing is like, and for me, it's really quite powerful, because it's helping people to feel and feel safe with their feelings. And feel, and I really do feel that's my purpose here, because all I've got in all my books is feelings, love. I've been trying to get this out for years, but until I've gone through my depth of trauma, which is just recently, I wasn't ready. I had to go through this, and now I'm ready to really help and guide and coach and encourage people about their feelings, to feel safe, to go there, because that's where the suffering and all the is, and where the healing is. If we can get there. So I'd love to talk to you more, Jennie, about that, because it's around that and that.
Well, we should all be talking, because I've also been rethinking about how I work as well. So there's sounds like there's plans afoot everywhere, doesn't it?
I love that. And in some ways, I think we've maybe been brought together. We don't know that there's certain souls there, that, you know, this is the plan, the bigger picture, like you say, Jennie, the war. What is that? I mean, it's like something we know behind that. There's something, but there's going to be something out from that. And the shift is the people, but a lot of them don't know they're shifting. They don't know what's happening. No. They're just going to be feeling more afraid and more full of fear. And that's the thing. All there is in life is love and fear. So let's. There's
a lot of imagery of children and vulnerables at the moment.
Well, I think it's a trigger, isn't it? Again, for lots of people, and you know, people can. I think once people recognise that they don't, what they're seeing and what they're hearing and what they're feeling might not be a true representation of what is really going on, or even understand kind of the real reason behind what's happening is happening. I think that is a trigger for people to start looking to themselves, because the only thing that you can really believe and have truth in is yourself, right? You can't. So people start looking at themselves, and then they start breaking themselves down and then building it back up again, and releasing all those chains that others have put on us, or we've put on ourselves. And quite often it is that we've put on ourselves.
It's very clever how that's happened, isn't it? How we've been encouraged to bring ourselves up.
And it's like the whole slave reference thing that we hear a lot. And, you know, essentially we are all slaves to that, aren't we? Like, we're all chained to our past beliefs or past traumas, or we're chained to that. And we can stay chained to it and find some security and safety, but I guess you'll never reach your higher purpose if you maintain that bonded link. I don't know, you know.
Yes,
I don't know. It's definitely a period of change.
Yeah, and I think there are superheroes in that suffering, in that part, in those trapped feelings. You know, that's the superpower, really. The suffering is where we can learn so much about ourselves and our story. So I want to try and get them to learn to love their story, because if they're learning to love their story, you got to learn to love. You got to learn to love yourself. You got to learn to feel first, and then you know, be able to start writing out the truth. And you know, and I just think, wow, it's powerful.
That's so funny, because I'm also working on a project to help people understand the astrological story. So like when things were happening, what was going on astrologically, in like cracking your code. That's a whole other conversation. We're gonna have to wrap this up now, but because I can hear my kids fighting in the background, and I'm on a bit of a bus stop. And Carl's just had to go away to a meeting, so I'm gonna have to assume responsibility very shortly. But anyway, Gillian's sharing with us, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I had everything super planned out, didn't we all? Then she's added, had to show up in service in a way that works when nothing is known. Now, how do we do that? I mean, that is the big question, isn't it? Because over the last few years, I had loads of thoughts, and then thought, why bother? It's all going to collapse soon. Well, like, why buy a house? It could all go. You know, I've allowed what I've heard or seen around me to kind of put me off. And then she also says, I'm seeing more and more recognizing what they're believed to be real is not, and it's terrifying for most, which is really like hooking on to what you were saying, Jennie, you know, that people are absolutely realizing they can't necessarily trust their emotions based on what they're seeing. Like seeing isn't believing it.
And I definitely think that people need a lot of help.
Yeah,
there are a lot of people that need help with processing.
Yeah,
I think it's becoming obvious now to me who's here to play these roles in guiding and supporting, because I think we're all connecting with each other now.
Yeah, and
time's coming. I don't think it's going to be too long. But you're right. I remember there was a course a few years ago, 2 years ago, that I thought, well, I'm not sure there's any point doing that, because it's all going to change. But I did it, thankfully. And I've done all this training, and I thought I was doing it all for my, I didn't even know. I was just doing it. Driven to do this, and this. And now it's all starting to make sense.
Yeah.
But it was for me to get to where I am, but now it's for others to deliver right at a time of real need.
And also by helping others, you further help yourself, for sure.
Always what I've always been doing, because I've not been helping myself really. I've been doing these master classes. I have, but a lot of it has been sort of like to put out to others, more so than And if it was to help myself, well,
no, but the end goal, it will be to help yourself, because you're doing the service you're meant to be doing.
Gillian's raising a really good point here. She's saying, yes, folks need support, but many are in the injured animal phase and lashing out. And actually, Carla and I have experienced that 3 times in this last week. Yeah,
me too.
Really? And it was really shocking when it happened. We were like, flipping heck, where did that come from? And we sort of like looked over what was occurring, like what our roles might have been in it, but also considered that maybe people are just like if people see you on a screen and you're putting yourself out there and just being very open and transparent, it's very easy to project onto you.
Can I just say that I don't know if I said this last time we spoke, but I was reading something that was saying that the highest vibrational energy is authenticity.
Yeah.
And so if you're being authentic and also like you're in that high vibration, you're going to be a massive target for that low vibrational energy.
Yeah. And it started, Gillian is absolutely spot on. People are lashing out.
I'm getting it this week. It's really interesting. Me and my husband, the landlady we've had. I mean, it's just the way you've put it there, Gillian, injured animal phase. It really is. And lashing out. That's what she's doing. And it's totally out of the blue. We can't it's like, what?
Yeah. And I think it's important to know that it's probably not really who they are. It's just like they're kind of injured and not knowing how to be in that moment. And she's saying, or in a freeze state, and I believe believing they don't need anything. We've had both, someone lashing out and then freezing us because they don't need anything. And then or in she said the same thing twice, but there you go. It was meant to be said a couple of times. So anyway, that was a really kind of interesting conversation that really, we went around so many different things. I love meeting with you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
getting
me up nice and early. It is good for me to get up and do something, because I can just sort of sit there and just like, that's the time really. The time is to get up. It's like the morning routine, get up and do something purposeful. So you really got me doing that today, Louisa.
Oh, bless you. Well, thank you for joining us. Oh, Gillian's saying she corrected it. That's why it was sent twice. So it's different. And so this is the correct one. Or in a free state and believing they don't need anything. She's saying thank you to you all, and thank you, Gillian, for being with us as well. Thank you for all your contributions. I appreciate you. Jennie, thank you as well. And what are you guys up to now? So you've got your early morning. Donna, what are you up to now, Jennie? It looks like it's a beautiful day on the road.
Well, it's a toss-up between working on the journal or going and painting. So I think I might do the journal, because I'm already covered in paint from yesterday, so I was painting most of the day yesterday. But I'm trying to get 2 rooms done so I can get my stuff moved in. The window should be here tomorrow. So in the next, I've got a lot to organise and a lot to do. But I'm going to transform where we've been living in the wood shack. I'm going to transform that into a little healing shack. So we're going to have a little bit of a shop, treatment room, tea area, that kind of thing. So I've got a lot to do, because I need to get that up and running as soon as I can. Drop-in centre, a spiritual kind of place so people can come and just, have good vibes, hopefully.
That sounds very
good. I need to organise. I've got so many things that I don't know. I must have 100 million ideas in my head right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get my journal on as well. So anyway, have a beautiful rest of day. Thank you so much once again. And thank you to everyone that's watched today and who watches in catch up. But lots of love to you all.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you all soon. Lots of love.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.